From CM Punk calling out Vince McMahon and his whole family in a fiery promo, to him getting into an all-out brawl that led to a ton of controversy. Here are some of CM Punk's most controversial moments. All right, let's take a trip down memory lane to 2011. This is when CM Punk shook the WWE Universe to its core. This dude was already a big shot in the company, but he wasn't quite the top dog like the big guns Triple H, The Undertaker, or John Cena. But on the June 13th episode of Raw, everything changed. Punk went from second place to stealing the whole dang show. He pulled off a master plan by costing John Cena a tables match against R-Truth. But that was just the warm-up. That's because that night, Punk unleashed one of the most epic promos in wrestling history. And let me tell you, he didn't hold anything back. This wasn't your regular scripted promo. No, sir. This was Punk tearing everything down with his words and spilling the tea on the real-life issues he had with WWE. He went straight for the jugular, calling out Vince McMahon and the whole McMahon family, saying they were out of touch with what wrestling was all about. Ouch! That had to sting. But he didn't stop there. Punk questioned the decisions on who gets pushed and who gets held back, and he had some serious thoughts on that. He boldly declared himself as one of the best in the business. And you know what? He wasn't wrong. But the way he chose to address the whole situation easily made it one of his most controversial and problematic moments. But I'm just getting started. I mean, let's not forget the time he poured Paul Bearer's ashes over The Undertaker. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it gets weirder. Picture this: WrestleMania 29. The stage was set for a clash of titans between CM Punk and The Undertaker. These two weren't exactly strangers to each other, but this time it felt different. The Deadman streak was like a legendary beast, and Punk had recently got off one of the longest WWE Championship reigns. Fans were on the edge of their seats, but just a month before the event, tragedy struck. Paul Bearer, The Undertaker's legendary manager, passed away. Now, this was a real-life loss, and the Deadman wanted to deal with it by paying a fitting tribute to his friend. But Punk? He had a completely different idea. He used Bearer's passing as a way to piss Undertaker off even more. Punk and Heyman went all in, mocking Bearer and The Undertaker through vignettes and promos. Though the worst of it was when Punk poured Bearer's ashes over Undertaker. Now, the match went down, and, in the end, The Undertaker won. But the big question was it all worth it? Most fans of CM Punk felt like he went too far this time. It was in poor taste, even if everyone involved was told it had happened before the match. Now, you could argue that a part of the charm of the WWE is pushing the envelope and doing crazy stunts like this. But there's gotta be a line, and it's clear that CM Punk definitely crossed it this time. But that's not the end of his problematic history. Because the way he quit WWE also got tons of folks riled up. It was Royal Rumble in 2014, and CM Punk entered the ring at number 1. He was fighting his heart out, lasting an impressive 49 minutes, but then, bam! Kane came in like a wrecking ball and eliminated him. Now, that was one way to ruin Punk's Rumble dreams. You might be wondering, why on earth would they book Punk for such a strange program? Especially considering his previous championship reigns and his superstar status. Well, it certainly didn't get him any closer to headlining WrestleMania, which was one of his big dreams in WWE. So the next night, before Monday Night Raw, Punk had enough. He had a chat with the big bosses, Vince McMahon and Triple H, and he cleared the air. He didn't quite like the way his character arc was going, and guess what? He was heading home. Yeah, you heard that right. Punk pulled the ultimate mic drop moment and left everyone wondering what the heck was going on. Now here's the crazy part. WWE never addressed his absence. Like, at all. It's like he just vanished into thin air. And Punk? Well, he kept mum for months. Not a word from him. It's only when he had Art of Wrestling podcast that he talked about how sick and tired he was of the company. And while he might have been in the right, fans still chalk it up as one of his most shocking and problematic moments ever. Plus, let's not forget the lawsuits that he had to deal with because of his problematic actions. So turns out, going onto a podcast and airing out all the dirty laundry doesn't come without its fair share of problems. That's because not everyone was thrilled with Punk's truth-bombing antics. Cue the entrance of former WWE doctor Chris Amon. He wasn't too happy about the comments Punk and Cabana made about him on the podcast, and sued them both. Now the courtroom showdown was intense. And for a while, it looked like Punk could be in some serious trouble, but in the end, he won the civil suit, but that's not where the drama ended. Turns out Amon was like, who's going to cover all the costs of this expensive lawsuit for me? And so naturally, he sued CM Punk for the cost of it, to which Punk countersued the guy. While lawyers eventually settled things outside of court, it's clear that the two's relationship was never the same after this. And I mean, I wouldn't want to hang out with someone that sued me a bunch of times either. Though it's kind of sad that the two longtime friends closed out their friendship in such a problematic and controversial way. And don't think just because the guy took a break from professional wrestling that he became any less controversial. Nope. Because his bombastic return in 2021 led to another problematic moment. AEW was his new playground, and he was hungry to make up for lost time. Punk's first few months in AEW were a smash hit. Critics and fans were showering him with praise as he engaged in epic feuds with the likes of Eddie Kingston and MJF. But then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, Punk's showdown with Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing 2022. In theory, it was a match made in heaven, and Punk was destined to snatch that championship gold from Page's clutches. So, in response, Page cut a promo that left viewers scratching their heads, because he basically mentioned how AEW needed saving from Punk and Page was going to be the one to do it. And, well, Punk didn't like that one bit. So, he called out Page to the ring, but guess what? Page was a no-show. Punk didn't hold back, calling the guy a coward and bad-mouthing him a ton. During this time, Punk had to step away because of an injury he suffered. But rest assured, he came back later to give everyone a piece of his mind. When Punk hit that AEW television screen again, one of the first things he did was get involved in a super fiery promo. And get this, it was completely unscripted. There were no chains on the dude this time. And, well, he didn't hold back and called out Page. But wait, there's more. This explosive return set the stage for a colossal world title unification match against Jon Moxley on the August 24th episode of Dynamite. And while Punk lost the match at first, a quick rematch happened, and he came out on top once again. Now, here's the part that had everyone's jaws dropping. After the show, in an unexpected tirade, Punk went on an all-out verbal rampage. And get this, he didn't spare anyone, not even AEW president Tony Khan, who was sitting just feet away from him. No one was safe from Punk's fiery wrath. Not the media, not the AEW EVPs, and certainly not Adam Page. You just know the dude was under massive fire for pulling this little stunt. In fact, it led to an all-out brawl. Turns out Punk's comments didn't sit well with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and while there's different versions of the events, it's said that Punk went nuts and punched Matt Jackson. But that's not all. CM Punk's friend, Ace Steel, also reportedly hit Nick Jackson with a chair, and even went as far as to bite Omega. Sheesh. And if that wasn't enough, Punk's reckless actions even got his own dog injured in all this. Animal abuse? Now that's too far. I know I've said that before too, but come on, it can't get much worse than this. So from him getting into an all-out brawl that led to a ton of controversy, to Punk calling out Vince McMahon and his whole family in a fiery promo, those were some of CM Punk's most controversial moments.